Nina Tucker, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Nina Tucker was a sweet, curious little girl who loved playing with her dog, Alexander. Her father, Sho Tucker, was a state alchemist, praised for his chimera research. But what no one knew was how far he was willing to go to keep his status. After failing to make progress, Tucker once again reached the brink of losing his license. And just like last time, he sacrificed the people closest to him to buy more time. One day, Edward and Alphonse returned to visit Nina, only to find something horrific. A new talking chimera sitting in the lab, one that was only able to mutter a few muddled words. Big Brother. That's when it hit them. Sho had fused his daughter and her beloved dog into a grotesque hybrid, forever mutilating them both. Nina's eyes no longer looked human, just confused, hollow, and in pain. Her body was distorted and twisted, her soft voice begging for Big Brother Ed as if she had no idea what had happened. She didn't die right away. The chimera lived for days, suffering, isolated, and forgotten, until Scar showed up. Seeing the abomination, he realized that the only mercy he could offer was death. He placed his hand on the chimera's head and used his deconstruction alchemy to erase her in an instant. Nina Tucker didn't just die. She was erased after being turned into a science experiment by the person who was supposed to protect her own father. The Eclipse. Berserk. The Eclipse is one of the most nightmarish events in Berserk, a horrifying ritual that happens once every 216 years to bring a new member into the God Hand. But not just anyone can trigger it, only the ones with the Crimson Beheaded can invoke it. Apostles wait eagerly for this event as they gathered at the predetermined location like VIP guests at the worst party imaginable. On the eve of the eclipse, Griffith, who owned a Crimson Beheaded, was at his lowest point. After Guts and the Band of the Hawks launched a daring rescue from the Tower of Rebirth, they found him in a pitiful state. Mute, emaciated, unable to even stand on his own. He was now nothing more than a broken shell. His dream of ruling a kingdom is now completely shattered. In a moment of pure despair, Griffith even tried to take his own life by hurling himself onto a jagged tree root, only to fail at that too. But just when he thought he had hit rock bottom, his Crimson Beheaded resurfaced from the lake. With a single drop of his blood, the gears of fate turned, and the world darkened under a solar eclipse. In an instant, Griffith, Guts, and the entire Band of the Hawk were sucked into another dimension. There, they met the God Hand, who presented Griffith with a twisted offer. He could reclaim his dream, but at a terrible price. He had to give up his humanity and sacrifice the people who had followed him through thick and thin. With a chilling finality, he whispered, "I sacrifice." And just like that, all hell broke loose. The Band of the Hawk never stood a chance. A swarm of monstrous apostles tore through them like a pack of starving wolves, turning the battlefield into a literal bloodbath. Guts fought with everything he had, but he couldn't save them. Judo died trying to protect Casca, taking brutal injuries until his body couldn't take anymore. Pippin tried to hold off the apostles, but was ultimately torn apart. Casca watched, horrified as her friends were devoured alive, limbs ripped off, guts spilled, their screams fading into nothing. Guts, battered and desperate, searched for survivors, clinging to the hope that someone, anyone, was still alive. Then he found Gaston, only for the poor guy to collapse in his arm, grotesquely swollen. Before Guts could even process it, Gaston's head exploded in his arms. An apostle emerged from his neck while his lifeless body twisted and morphed into an unrecognizable mess. But the nightmare wasn't over. Guts spotted Pippin on a hill and ran towards him, only to realize something was horribly wrong. Pippin wasn't moving. He wasn't even alive. His body had been hollowed out and propped up like a grotesque marionette, controlled by the writhing tentacles of an apostle in the shadows. Before Guts could react, Pippin's corpse was ripped in half, tossed aside like garbage. And then, as if things couldn't possibly get worse, Griffith, now reborn as Femto, made his first move. In a scene that shattered whatever was left of Guts' sanity, Femto assaulted Casca right in front of him while he was pinned down by an apostle. Guts fought with everything he had, even tearing off his own arm in a desperate attempt to stop it. But he was powerless. By the time Skull Knight arrived to rescue Guts and Casca, the Band of the Hawk was gone. The battlefield was nothing more than a sea of blood and torn corpses. The Eclipse isn't just one of the most horrifying moments in Berserk, it is one of the most gruesome death scenes in anime history. Sarasa. Sarasa was an innocent young girl from Meteor City, the dystopian garbage-filled nation within the Hunter x Hunter world. She was a childhood friend of Corolla Lucifer, and the core group that would eventually form the Phantom Troupe. She was always bubbly and optimistic, always eager to make others happy, which is sadly what led to her chilling demise. One day, after the future troupe members needed more videotapes to dub over, Sarasa took it upon herself to look through a secluded area with trash heaps that she was sure no one else had checked. At the same time, a pair of sketchy men are seen loading restrained and blindfolded people into their van, stating that they've met their quota for the day, but still want to hunt down one more for fun. A day passes by, and everyone is worried that Sarasa hadn't returned, so they go looking out for her deep in the woods. There, Corolla finds a single black bag hanging from a tree. His stomach sinks as he cuts the bag down, seemingly already knowing what will be inside. Sure enough, he opens the bag. To his horror, the severed body parts of Sarasa were piled up inside the bag. The men didn't just take her out, they tortured her, filmed it, and dismembered her body just to discard her like she was food scraps. The young troop members cried and lamented how much pain Sarasa must have felt, how alone and scared she must have felt. This traumatizing event is what directly led to the formation of the Phantom Troupe, as Corolla swore to get his revenge on those responsible.
And really quick, if you enjoy these no-nonsense, straight-to-the-point videos covering all sorts of anime topics, then make sure to like this video and subscribe. But anyway.
Miki Makimura, Devilman Crybaby. Miki Makimura was the heart of Devilman Crybaby, Akira Fudo's love interest, a kind and optimistic high school girl who saw the good in people, even when the world was falling apart. She wasn't a fighter or a supernatural being, just a fast runner and a genuinely good person. Even when Akira started acting different after fusing with a demon and becoming Devilman, Miki wasn't afraid of him, but she had no idea just how much Akira had changed. At least, not until everything went to hell. By the time the truth came out, Miki had already lost almost everything. Her family was gone, her home wasn't safe, and the world was spiraling into chaos. Then Ryo, Akira's supposed best friend, went on TV and exposed Akira's transformation, making the whole world think he was a monster. So he takes off to confront Ryo for his betrayal, leaving Miki behind. Wamuu and Gabi decide to stay and protect her, along with her friend Miko. But things take a nasty turn when two of Wamuu's friends, Hiei and Babo, betrayed them by leading an angry, bloodthirsty mob straight to the Makimura house. Realizing they're sitting ducks if they stay, Miki, Miko, Wamuu, and Gabi know their only option is to run. Convinced that Miki and her friends were demons, the crowd stormed the Makimura home with torches and weapons. Wamuu and Gabi fought to protect her. Miko transformed into her demon form to carry Miki away, but there was no escaping this madness. As they ran, Miko was shot and told Miki to run. And she did. Miki ran as fast as she could, clutching onto the memory of Miko and Akira as kids, as members of the track team, passing a baton to each other in the race. In her mind, she handed it to Akira one last time. Then, she was stabbed in the back. Meanwhile, Akira realized too late that he needed to go back for her. He sprinted home, desperate to save Miki, but when he arrived, all he found was pure, senseless carnage. Miki was dead. Not just dead, but mutilated. Her body, along with Miko, Wamuu, and Gabi's, had been dismembered by the same people she once called neighbors. Their heads and limbs were impaled on poles, waved around like grotesque trophies as the mob cheered and celebrated, convinced they had killed demons. The Makimura house burned behind them, with the flames lighting up the grinning faces of people who had just slaughtered innocent people. Miki's death is one of the most soul-crushing deaths in anime history. She wasn't killed by demons or supernatural forces. She was murdered by humans, by people she probably smiled at in the streets, by people who let fear turn them into monsters. The rabbit scene in Re:Zero. Subaru's return by death ability in Re:Zero is both his greatest power and his worst nightmare. The guy has been gutted, stabbed, frozen solid, and even had his throat slit multiple times. But none of those compare to his worst and most gruesome death, being eaten alive by rabbits. Yeah, rabbits. Sounds ridiculous, but ReZero takes that absurdity and turns it into pure nightmare fuel. During the attack on the Sanctuary arc, Subaru barely escapes death at Garfield's hands, only to pass out and wake up in an abandoned snow-covered wasteland. Wandering aimlessly, he comes across a single harmless-looking rabbit. It's tiny. It's cute. It's the kind of thing you'd expect you'd see in a kid's picture book. So, naturally, Subaru crouches down to pet it. Before he even realizes what's happening, the rabbit bites his entire left hand off and starts munching on it like a snack. Subaru barely has time to process the horror when 2 more rabbits burst out of the snow, this time going straight for his leg. They tear it off from the knee down, sending him crashing to the ground while writhing in agony. And that's when all hell breaks loose. An unstoppable tidal wave of rabbits emerges from the snow and swarms him from every direction. The Great Rabbit, a monstrous hive-minded mass of these deceptively cute creatures, descends upon Subaru like a pack of piranhas. Subaru is ripped apart, piece by piece, as the creatures burrow inside him and eat him from the inside out. His body is torn open, his organs shredded, and he stays alive through all of it. The light novel went way harder with his death. The anime kinda showed it, but the novel straight up describes a rabbit jumping into his mouth, ripping out his tongue, and crawling down his throat while another one entered from his anus. They met up inside him and just started munching on his organs. The anime did show his left eye getting eaten, but skipped over the part where his whole face got torn off. He only finally dies when the rabbit cracks open his skull and starts feasting on his brain. This isn't just Subaru's most painful death in the series. It is easily one of the most disturbing in all of anime. Asuka Langley Sohryu, Neon Genesis Evangelion. Asuka Langley Sohryu, the fiery redhead from Neon Genesis Evangelion, was the second child and pilot of Unit 02. Her backstory was already tragic enough. Her mother Kyoko lost her mind after an experiment with Unit 02 and later took her own life. Fast forward to the end of Evangelion, where Asuka wakes up from a coma and finds herself inside Unit 02, submerged underwater while the JSSDF starts bombing the place. She panics but then hears a voice, her mother's soul still inside the Eva, telling her to fight. With this realization, Asuka goes absolutely beast mode, ripping through an entire military force like they're made of paper. But just when she thinks she won, Zila sends in the mass production Evangelions, 9 creepy biomechanical nightmares with unlimited power thanks to their S2 engines. She manages to destroy all 9, however one of them chunks a large spear, which transforms into a replica of the Lance of Longinus. The replica lance flies straight through Unit 02's head, impaling it, and because Eva pilots physically feel the damage their machines take, Asuka screams in pure agony as she convulses in extreme pain. Things get so much worse from there. The mass production Evas, despite being torn to shreds, regenerate instantly and swarm Unit 02 like a pack of vultures. They rip it apart piece by piece, while Asuka feels every second of it, unable to do a thing. Even after all that, Asuka refuses to give up. Barely clinging to life, she forces Unit 02 into Berserk mode and tries to fight back, only to have her arm sliced in half by more lances. Then, the mass production Evas impale her with their remaining lances, finally ending her suffering in the most excruciating way possible. While Asuka does appear later on that eerie beach with Shinji, implying she returned from instrumentality, it doesn't erase what she went through. Conny, The Promised Neverland. Connie's story in The Promised Neverland starts off like a classic heartwarming tale. She's a sweet 6-year-old orphan living at the Grace Fieldhouse, a place where the kids are well fed, loved, and cared for by their mom Isabella. Sure, the daily IQ tests and strict boundary rules are a little weird, but hey, life seems pretty great. One day, Connie gets the best news an orphan can hope for. She's been adopted. She's finally getting a family of her own, and everyone is happy for her. Seems like the happily ever after for Connie. But this isn't that kind of story. After she leaves, Emma and Norman realize Connie forgot her beloved stuffed bunny. Wanting to make sure she has her dearest friend with her in her new home, they rush to return it. But when they arrive at the gate, they find something straight out of a nightmare. Inside a truck, they discover Connie's lifeless body, her skin gray, her eyes wide open, and a bizarre flower sticking out of her chest. The sheer horror of it sends Emma reeling, and when Norma joins her, he's just as shaken. But the horror doesn't stop there. Voices from another room send them scrambling for cover, and what they witness next completely shatters their world. They see monsters, actual grotesque creatures, casually chatting about how the children are livestock raised to be eaten by the rich and powerful. They then begin stripping Connie's body, preparing it for preservation and shipment like a piece of meat being stored in a container. And then, the final gut punch. Isabella, their beloved caretaker, casually enters the conversation, confirming that she's in on all of it. Connie's death is a brutal wake-up call that kicks off the entire story, but what makes it especially horrifying is just how much she suffered. The flower in her chest, known as a Vida, is a tool used by demons to keep their meat fresh. It paralyzes the victim while draining their blood, meaning Connie was alive when it was inserted. She likely felt everything: the fear, the pain, and the suffocation as she slowly died, completely alone. For a 6-year-old child who was looking forward to a loving home, having to experience that kind of terror and agony, there's no question that Connie suffered one of the most physically painful and emotionally devastating deaths in anime history. Shigechi, JJBA Part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable. Shigekio Shigechi Yangu from JoJo Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable was just a middle schooler trying to make some easy cash with his stand, Harvest, a swarm of tiny creatures that could collect things for him. At first, he used it to find loose change around Morio, but after meeting Josuke and Okuyasu, he realized that he could rake in way more money by working together with them. Of course, greed got the best of him, and he tried to take all the cash for himself, only to get a beatdown and a valuable lesson in teamwork. Despite the rough start, they all became friends, but friendship wasn't enough to save him from his worst possible encounter with Yoshikage Kira, Morio's resident serial killer with a hand fetish. One day, Shigechi accidentally swapped his lunch with one of Kira's girlfriends in the form of a severed hand. When he saw what was in the bag, he was shaken to the core. But before he could even process the horror, his stand grabbed a 100 yen coin Kira was holding. That was all it took. Kira's stand, Killer Queen, activated its ability and detonated the coin, blowing half of Shigechi's face off in a gruesome explosion. Even with his skull practically caved in, Shigechi did not give up. He realized that Kira was the murderer that Josuke had been looking for. He tried to escape by using Harvest to cause a distraction and lure Kira away. He then dragged his broken body across the school grounds and pushed through the pain, desperately trying to reach Josuke because he knew Crazy Diamond could heal him. Just when he was so close, a ball hit his injury, sending him crashing to the ground. Nobody around him even cared, treating him like just another kid being clumsy. Struggling back to his feet, he finally found Josuke, but at that moment, he made one final, fatal mistake. He grabbed the doorknob without even thinking, and Killer Queen was waiting. The second he touched it, he exploded from the inside out. Not a single trace of him was left behind. No body, no clothes, nothing. Just gone and reduced to atoms. But even in his last moments, Shigechi refused to go down without a fight. The very last member of Harvest managed to deliver a crucial clue, a button from Kira's jacket, to Josuke before exploding. That button would later become the key to tracking Kira down and revealing his identity. Shigechi's prolonged suffering before his death was simply brutal in every way. Miki Zacharias, AOT. Miki Zacharias from Attack on Titan was basically humanity's second strongest soldier after Levi and a section commander in the Scouts. But what really sets him apart is his insanely good sense of smell. Dude could sniff out Titans from miles away. He played a huge role in the mission to capture the female Titan when he teamed up with Levi to carve Annie out of her Titan body. Too bad she had that selective hardening trick up her sleeve, so that plan went straight out the window. Later, when the female Titan unleashed that eerie scream to summon nearby Titans, Miki was the first to pick up on it, by smell no less, giving Erwin a heads up before disaster struck. But Miki's real nightmare kicked off during the mission to investigate the 104th Cadet Corps. While on patrol, he suddenly caught scent of Titan's inside wall rose. Wasting no time, he sent a soldier to warn Erwin and told his squad to retreat while he stayed behind to buy them time. Taking on 9 Titans alone, he actually managed to take down 5 with pure skill, proving why he was one of the best. Then came the curveball. The Beast Titan appeared. This thing was unlike anything Miki had ever seen. It was massive, covered in fur, and smart. Before he could even process what was happening, the Beast Titan yeeted a horse straight at him. The impact sent him flying right into the jaws of a waiting Titan, and crushed his legs on impact. Unable to move, the Beast Titan approached him and spoke to him. He was so stunned, he couldn't even answer, and when the Beast Titan got bored, it just took his ODM gear and left him there. Then, in the most twisted way possible, the Beast Titan let the other Titans loose on him. Miki fought back while screaming through the pain, but it was hopeless. The Titans swarmed him and tore him apart piece by piece, devouring him limb by limb, and made him feel every second of it. He got torn apart by multiple Titans, each one taking a chunk out of him while he was still alive. One of humanity's strongest soldiers can do nothing but scream and make desperate pleas for mercy as they rip him apart piece by piece. No quick in, no mercy, just agony until there was nothing left. Zoran Blitz, Hellsing Ultimate. Zoran Blitz from Hellsing Ultimate wasn't just your average vampire. She was a sadistic, mind-twisting nightmare. As a lieutenant of the last battalion and part of the werewolf squad, she was all in on the war against England. But what really made her terrifying was her ability to mess with people's minds, using illusions to rip open old wounds before finishing them off. She loved playing with her victims by making them relive their worst memories before delivering the killing blow. When Millennium launched its assault on London, Zoran led a brutal attack on Hellsing HQ, cutting down civilians and soldiers alike. During her showdown with the Wild Geese led by Captain Pip Bernadotte, she was about to have the upper hand when Sarasa arrived to aid Pip. Using her illusion, she forced Sarasa to relive the trauma of her childhood, and while she was reliving her tragic past, Zoran sliced open her eyes, stabbed her through the back, and hacked off her left arm. Just when she was about to finish her off, Pip swooped in to save Sarasa, only for Zoran to impale him with her scythe. That was the turning point. Drowning in grief, Sarasa finally embraced her true nature and drank Pip's blood. Her wounds instantly healed, and she began to transform into her full berserker mode before ripping through Zoran's men like they were paper dolls. The once unstoppable illusionist barely had time to react before Sarasa slammed her to the ground and tore off her fingers with her teeth like she was peeling a snack. In a last-ditch effort, Zoran tried to invade Sarasa's mind again, but this time it didn't work. Sarasa had reached a level where no illusion could touch her, and then came one of the most gruesome deaths in anime history. Sarasa grabbed Zoran's head and dragged her face across the wall at full speed, grinding it down bit by bit like a block of cheese on a grater. Flesh, bone, everything gone. By the time she let go, there was practically nothing left of Zoran's face, and as if that wasn't enough, Sarasa tossed her body to the ground, where it promptly burst into flames and crumbled to ash. Nanami, JJK. Kento Nanami from Jujutsu Kaisen was a grade 1 sorcerer who ditched the salaryman life to return to the battlefield. As Gojo's underclassman and Yuji's mentor, he was a powerful sorcerer with a no-nonsense attitude, always getting the job done. But from the moment he crossed paths with Mahito and his terrifying idol transfiguration technique, it was like his fate was sealed. During the chaos of the Shibuya incident, Nanami was in the thick of it, fighting off transfigured humans alongside Megumi and Takuma. But the second he heard Yuji's desperate announcement about Gojo getting sealed, he knew things had just gone really bad. Wasting no time, he rushed to assess the situation and contain the chaos. On his way, he ran into Haruta and, in classic Nanami fashion, forced some much-needed intel out of him about the sorcerers behind the curtain trapping Shibuya. But before he could act on it, things took another turn. He, Maki, and Naobito were suddenly sucked into Dagon's domain expansion. Luckily, Megumi managed to create an exit, but their escape came with a wild surprise. Toji barging in like an absolute menace, making their job way easier by one-shotting Dagon. For a second, it actually seemed like things were turning around, but Toji's instincts kicked in and yanked Megumi away for a personal deathmatch. Worried about Megumi, Nanami immediately moved to go after him, but just as he took his first step, Jogo appeared and hit him, Maki, and Nobito with an explosion of cursed fire. Nobito and Maki were left on the brink of death. Nanami survived, but just barely. Half of his body was completely burned, his skin charred and peeling, but somehow he kept moving. He refused to give up, still fighting off transfigured humans despite the excruciating pain of his injuries. It was in this moment, as he fought through his agony, that he started imagining a peaceful life and a quiet retirement in Malaysia. But that dream never came true because Mahito already found him. Mahito reached out, touched him, and activated idol transfiguration, and Yuji arrived just in time to watch it happen. Nanami's incinerated body started to disfigure as he gave Yuji a reassuring smile before his entire body exploded into nothingness. Chelsea, Akame ga Kill. Chelsea from Akame ga Kill was one of the 2 new members that joined Agenda's night raid unit, along with Susanoo. Before this, she worked under a cruel viceroy who basically hunted people for fun. Being stuck in that nightmare made Chelsea cold and cynical, like she had lost all hope in the world. But everything changed when she stumbled upon the Gaia Foundation. This shape-shifting Tegu that had been stored in a basement waiting for the right person. Chelsea used it to assassinate the viceroy, who was later replaced with someone actually decent. And for once, Chelsea felt like she made a real difference. That spark pushed her to join the Revolutionary Army. In battle, Chelsea was all about brains over brawn. She wasn't the type to charge in with a sword. She waited in the shadows, disguised and armed with needles sharp enough to take out enemies in a single precise strike. During a mission where Night Raid faced off against the Jaegers, she disguised herself as a random girl and approached Bowles, who was already pretty messed up from an earlier explosion. Taking advantage, she stabbed him, killed him, and then disguised herself as him to get close to her next target, Kurome. Kurome was happy to see Bowles still alive. Waiting for the perfect opportunity, Chelsea got the jump on Kurome and paralyzed her with a needle to the neck. After seemingly killing her, Chelsea proceeded to leave and return to HQ. But then, Kurome suddenly appeared behind her. As it turned out, she didn't die. Chelsea tried to escape, but Kurome's team was on her trail. Before she could transform again, Natala slashed off almost all her fingers on her left hand, leaving just her thumb. Doya then destroyed her Tegu with a bullet. Still, Chelsea ran and pushed through the pain. She made it to a field of flowers, hoping to escape, but Natala caught up. He cut off her right arm, and Doya shot her in the back. Downed and broken, Chelsea realized she wasn't getting out alive, and just accepted her fate. Natala didn't give her a chance to beg or even speak. He pinned her down and decapitated her on the spot. Later, her severed head was paraded in the center of Romari, displayed like some twisted warning sign. Tatsumi later found it, and the shock on his face said it all. And just when you think it couldn't get worse, it's revealed that her body was dissected and fed to the monster Hecatonchirus. Chelsea's death was slow, brutal, and filled with hopelessness. And that's why her death sticks with people as one of the most excruciating, savage ends in all of anime. Megumi Shimizu, Shiki. Megumi Shimizu from Shiki was born and raised in a dusty, boring countryside town called Sotoba. She hates living there with a burning passion, and all she wants is to escape and live her best glam life in the big city, become a popular idol, and hang out in clubs every night with everyone admiring her. The only thing she mildly tolerated in Sotoba were this cool gothic mansion owned by the Kirishiki family who just moved in recently, and her crush, Natsuno. And she takes her affection to a different level, like peeping through the guy's windows from the bushes like a lovesick ninja. Sadly, Natsuno wasn't having it. He knew she was watching and found her super annoying. One day, Megumi mysteriously disappears. People find her in the woods the next day, totally out of it, can't eat, barely talks, and looks like she got hit by a vampire-shaped truck. All she remembers is getting invited into that creepy new mansion by the Kirishiki family. A few days later, she's dead. Several days after her funeral, Megumi rises from the dead as a Shiki, basically a vampire. As the undead, Megumi goes full mean girl by terrorizing the village with a petty vengeance, and she enjoys every bit of it. Her obsession with Natsuno gets worse, as she starts picking off people around him. She first targets Natsuno's best friend, Toru, out of pure jealousy, and even goes after her childhood friend Kaori for just talking to him. After several villagers are killed, with some turning into vampires, the once peaceful town is suddenly thrown into disarray, and it's just a matter of time before the Shiki ultimately takes over Sotoba. But then Natsuno and Dr. Ozaki came up with a brilliant plan to turn the tables on the Kirishiki family and the rest of the Shiki. when the remaining villagers finally get fed up with the whole vampire infestation and decide to purge all the Shiki, Megumi's survival instincts kick in. She makes a break for it, hoping to finally escape Sotoba and live the glam life she had always dreamed of. As she's crossing a road that night, she realizes it was the same road where she used to wait for the bus with Natsuno. She sees a flashback of him and zones out. This gave the villagers a chance to catch up and chase her into a rice field. She thinks she's safe in the dark, unaware of the tractors in front of her, until they turn the headlights on. She runs in panic when the tractor slams into her, sending her to the ground. She pleads with the villagers, saying she's really Megumi and that she just wants to go to the city, but they're not having it. Another tractor rolls in and crushes her arm, pinning her to the ground. Unable to move, she screams about how much she loathes the village and how the dull place should have never existed. Another tractor runs over her face, squashing her head completely. And somehow, Megumi's still alive, literally squirming on the ground with her skull mashed like a watermelon. It's only after the villagers stake through her heart that she finally dies. Her body is then tossed on a burn pile with the rest of the Shiki, and they all go up in flames as the village is ultimately engulfed in a wildfire. Megumi's death is one of those deaths that makes you sit back and go, did the animators need therapy after this? Because the viewers sure do.